Brace for impact, the UK economy shrank just over 20% in April under the virus lockdown. Now, the contraction wiped out almost 18 years of growth, returning the economy to the same size it was in 2002. Although a recovery is likely as businesses start to reopen, the figures also show the scale of the challenge facing policymakers. Well, joining us now is Keller, Barclays head of economics research. Christian, first, it could be the UK, it could be applied to a number of countries, the US, but also European countries. What kind of recovery are we going to see? There's now a specter of a second lockdown, certainly a resurgence of infections. What does that do to economic forecasts?
Well, I think you said something that's at the beginning that's quite important. Would a second wave actually lead to a second set of lockdowns? Because, ultimately what really, brought activity down is the lockdown. And, it was justified by possibly by a second wave, but I'm not sure whether, the reaction by governments to a second wave would be as it was to the first wave. Look, right now, if you think about, recent data actually made us relatively optimistic that we would have, I don't want to use the word V because immediately people are going to jump, but we were thinking of a relatively swift recovery. Got some good data out of China. Europe is recovering. UK data today was poor, but that was expected. US labor market data was better. So we did actually believe in a relatively swift recovery, call it a V in growth rates, not a V in terms of getting back to GDP levels soon where we were in 2019. Now, I do think that if we really have a second wave and we have to react to it in terms of shutting down activity again, that definitely would be then in question.
But Christian, when you look at economic forecasts, and we saw it from, in part the IMF, in part the OECD, there's now two sets of forecasts. It's, one is what we're seeing now, and the second one, if there's a second lockdown. Is this because we're being overly cautious, or because the nature of the infection and the nature of COVID-19 makes it likely?
Well, we look a lot at history, and you look at back all the way to the Spanish flu. There often have been second waves. Again, it depends how governments would react. You have now a better preparedness also by the hospitals. So it's not clear to me that even if there was a second wave of infections, it would necessarily lead to the same stringent lockdown measures that we have seen in the past few months. But, it's clear that institutions like the IMF, the OECD, they have to prepare and make two different forecasts where the scenario where you have another wave of lockdowns in a way is included. And obviously, those scenarios are much worse than the baseline, which doesn't foresee such a second wave, or at least not a second wave of mandated economic activity.